All right. Welcome back to another episode of the J.A.X Podcast, where we talk about the journey and experiences of those I've met on my journey. And today we have Kasandra Johnson. I'm so excited to talk with you. It's crazy because we met in Utah and you live in Alaska. So
Yes.
I'm just so excited to talk with you and hear a little bit more about your journey and your story.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited that you've invited me. Yes, like you said, we met in Utah, but I'm in Alaska and you're in Florida. So what a great place to meet. What an excellent event as well. So actually my background is a trail that's just a couple miles from my house. So I decided that would be a great background for our meeting today, just so you can kind of get a little taste of what I get to see every day. It's a special place here in Alaska. So
I
thank you
love
for
that.
having me. Yeah. So, you were asking me kind of, how I got started and everything in real estate. And it's actually a very storied past. Honestly, I got interested in real estate back when I started college, like from a really traditional standpoint, right? I got my exam passed and I was going to get a realtor's license. And in my head, I was like, yeah, I could just sell real estate on the side while I'm taking full-time, courses and working a job that pays me that's not just based on commission. So that was cute and naive. It's not very part-time. So that happened many, many moons ago. And it wasn't something I ended up pursuing because I needed to make money right then and there to support myself while I was in college. So, fast forward, I spent a lot of my professional career in the insurance industry and then sales and marketing. So in 2018, I left my job, my W-2, because it just wasn't satisfying. And I went back to bartending, which is something I did in college because I can sling drinks and jokes for a couple nights a week and pay my bills. And then, I decided I'd figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. Right. And then COVID hit. So that kind of took a big damper out. And I was looking at all kinds of things. Unfortunately, wholesaling, real estate, wasn't one of the things that popped up for me. Goodness, I wish it had, but it took a while. I went back into the insurance industry for 5 seconds on a property and casualty line. And it was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me either. What I realized then is that I need something to be more entrepreneurial in order for me to have a satisfaction. So working for someone else in a traditional manner just didn't really fit who I was and where my energy was. And so I was like, all right, back to bartending. And then I finally found this $17 masterclass on wholesaling. And I was like, wow, this seems really easy. You just walk up to somebody's door, give them $10 and then buy their house by spending somebody else's money. I'm like, that seems dangerous, right? I feel like I could get in a lot of trouble here doing this. So I started looking into more resources, and that's how I found Pace's Sub 2 group. And of course, he's such a dynamic personality. I'm like, okay, I got to be where this guy is. I don't even really care what he's saying, but obviously they're building something special here. So, open up the fire hose, boom. 2021, August, I joined Sub 2 and I started trying to understand all the concepts of creative financing and everything. And it's super overwhelming, right? So with my networking and my door knocking, I got an opportunity to do some short-term rental arbitrage. And I was looking at the numbers and I'm like, man, maybe at best this thing makes me $100 a month. And it seems like a lot of work. But I just decided, it's this, I have money sitting in my bank account or whatever that's not earning anything. So why don't I just do it and learn? And then I can build some momentum. So in snowstorms, by the way, I personally went and shopped and bought as much as I could off of Amazon because, you don't get everything shipped to Alaska. It's just not necessarily possible. So I have like pictures of me pushing like 2 carts, like super fully loaded of like housewares through, super deep snow and then
Oh my
moving it
God.
into an apartment. But I had so much fun, even though it's like I'd go to work and then I'd work at my apartment until 2, 3, 4 in the morning sometimes to bring it up online. So I learned a lot in the first one. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should start documenting because that thing rented immediately and it was rented for a month. And I'm like, well, now what do I do? Like,
Nice.
I need, so an apartment above me opened up and I was like, okay, let me take that one too. And I did that. Same process, all in the snow. It was great. So I had 2 for a couple of months and they were doing really well. I really enjoyed hosting short-term rentals and midterm rentals. And when more opportunities came up, I continued to take them. So over the course of the year, I started with 1 and ended up having 6 by December. So
Wow.
yeah, so this year has been the first year they've all been online. It's been kind of a really interesting climate in the short and midterm rentals. It is not like it was last year at all.
Mm.
So marketing strategies definitely have to change. Um, trying to do more organic outreach and referral outreach as opposed to just relying on platforms like Airbnb has been another fun learning piece. It's a stacking piece. And then also in January of this year, my business partner and we purchased a rooming house in Anchorage, which is completely way different than anything that I've ever looked at strategy wise. So it's a 12-bedroom house and each of the rooms are rented individually. And it's a business, right? It's an operating business. We bought it as such. Fully sprinklered, that whole thing. So that opened me up to all kinds of stuff I've never knew about and I got to learn about. Cash flows like super crazy well, but it's really not financeable. So unless you've been running it for a while. So we were pre-approved with a lender to refinance this property before we bought it. And we ended up buying it with private money so that we didn't have to come with a big down payment, et cetera. And then they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath us. They're like, hey, we know you told us that it was this, but now that we are looking at it and we know that it's this, we can't do it. And I'm like, what do you mean?
Oh my gosh.
So I've spent the last 8 months talking with various brokers, not really speaking with like some of the best people, just, our private money lenders mean the world to us. Like all we want to do is make good to them and trust they're getting paid. Like they're not getting paid. They're getting paid very handsomely for their money, but I understand that they want to redeploy their capital, and we want them to be able to do that. And we want to do more deals with them as well. So that's been an experience and a half. And lending has always been ultimately my goal. As I move through real estate, like I don't know that I necessarily want to have like 100 doors or anything like that. I just want to be able to build up the credit and the credibility to be able to help people get their own projects off the ground. Like ultimately, I think that would make me happy. So looking back at like what my strengths are and having been in the insurance industry for a really long time, you may have heard a lot of people talk about like self-directed IRAs or life insurance and using that as a vehicle to build wealth and, to really just like grow their money in a separate type of way. Or, even wholesalers who have like these huge checks coming in and then what do they do with that? Like put it in their bank account or whatever. Right. And is it working for them while they have that money? So insurance has always been interesting to me, a passion of mine. I just haven't found the application that fits my personality. But I am working with a team now to basically direct towards investors and use insurance policies to help them grow their active income and then build that generational wealth through those policies. So that's what I'm working on right now. It's like I said, it's kind of like a long bumpy path, but it's been really, really exciting.
That's crazy. Well, so a couple questions. With the Airbnbs, you said you have 6 of them. They're all arbitrage?
They are. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And
super low entry fee.
All in Alaska?
Yep. And actually all in the same building.
Wow. And like, so travel out there, what does that look like? You mentioned it's kind of, there's some people that are staying there midterm or?
Yeah. So here's if you're looking to get into Airbnb, whether it's arbitrage, you own the property, whatever, the most important question that you need to answer for yourself is, who is your dream customer? Who do you want to serve? And when I was getting into it and I started to see the change in the economy, maybe a lack of additional income for people to travel and vacation and, all these potential new shutdowns, I decided that vacation rental wasn't really who I wanted to serve, because here in Alaska, we import the majority of our labor, like not the majority, but we import a lot of our labor. So there's people that do shift work like all throughout the state, whether it be in oil, but biology, all the science fields, tech fields, and a lot of our medical professionals don't necessarily live here, or they don't live where they're needed. So Anchorage is the hub for our state. When people come in to get medical or to do major purchases and stuff, they all have to come into Anchorage to stay. So those are the people that I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve the business travelers. I wanted to serve the people coming into Anchorage to do a shopping trip for their family. And that's who I have been serving. So I decided that studio apartments were where I wanted to go, as opposed to like multi-bedroom or giant luxury properties, because our tourist industry is really strong. Our summers are crazy here. Like the state of Alaska has 800,000 people in it, right? And then that triples in the summer. But I mean, imagine the biggest state in the union, and we have like less population than small towns in the lower 48. So that's why I decided on that niche.
Okay. Yeah, that's super smart. And then with the 12 bedrooms, you called that like a rent room? Is that what the business model's called?
It's a rooming house. And the reason why I say that is because that's what the municipality of Anchorage classifies it as from a zoning perspective. So it's kind of really niche, right? So we don't fall under the Tenant Landlord Act, but we're not quite a motel. So they have a designation called a rooming or a boarding house. Because we don't have they don't have to make reservations and have a set period of time that they stay. But we don't do like year leases or anything like that. So it's really low barrier to get into it. And who we primarily serve in that market are folks who are, maybe working on building up their credit or working on their background and getting the credibility so that they can move into an apartment or a house of their own, and then have something affordable to live in the meantime. So they're fully furnished. We pay all the utilities, and it's basically like a communal living situation. So they share the common areas, the living room, the kitchen, the multiple bathrooms, but they have their own private room that's locked and secured. And then we have like an on-site manager that kind of helps with the consumables. So one, making sure everybody's being respectful, right? But we also supply the basic toiletries like, paper products and sanitation products as well. So it's a place where they can kind of get in and build up their home base and then move forward. So I'd say on average, people stay with us about a month, but we have people that stay with us the minimum week. We do require a minimum of a week. And then we've also had people that have been there for 2.5 years. So
wow.
Yeah, so it's really great. And I like that business model. And I think it's really important that the private sector tries to offer solutions for affordable housing. Obviously this is a hot topic in all of the news, the media, and our local governments are just having a really hard time finding, a solution that works. And obviously our tax base goes towards these situations that aren't necessarily long-term, nor are they really addressing a problem head on. So as an investor in real estate, I feel like it's important for me to offer that private solution. And that's one way that I'm hoping to do.
I love that. So is there like a roster of people trying to get those rooms, or how do you guys market to find the people to fill in those spaces?
That's a great question. So when we first bought this property, it was word of mouth, and it was a cash business, and it was kind of just all over the place, which is why we were able to get we were able to buy it at a pretty deep discount. So since then, we put in operating procedures in place, and it's still a lot of word of mouth, but it is marketed on like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and we have a website. Um, just like anything, demand kind of does this, right? For the most part, we're always full, but at the same time, we're also updating this building. When we first bought it, it was full. So we couldn't really like super inspect the rooms, and they all look decent, like the ones that we were able to see. And like, we didn't hold it against people that they had their clothes all over the floor or whatever. But when they started to move out, we really realized like, wow, okay, like this floor is nasty. We need to change this like ASAP. So, we started doing some updating on all of the rooms, putting down LVP so that it was going to be long lasting and super comfortable, et cetera. So we've had a little bit of vacancy, so we can do that. But ultimately, the winter months, for whatever reason, kind of slow down. So I know we have a couple rooms open right now, but there's not really a waiting list. As far as like working with community organizations like coalitions to end homelessness and things along those lines, I'd really love to identify new properties to be able to support those, because this model, we'd have to change a lot of things for it to fit those needs. They ultimately want like 1-year leases, which I'm 100% open to that. But I'm not open to displacing the people that we already have. And, it really serves them best. So I'm looking to offer more properties and do the same thing, and be able to offer those affordable places like through waiting lists, because there's plenty of people on waiting lists looking to get into housing. So
Yeah,
I want to provide those as well.
that's awesome. And are you planning to stay in Alaska?
That is a really difficult question. When I walk outside and I'm like, I'm really sick of being freaking cold, I'm like, I need to move, right? Or when I think, man, I wish I could just drive a couple hours and go to that meetup, I want to move. But every time I walk out and I'm like surrounded by these gorgeous mountains, and I'm not stuck in a ton of traffic and whatever, and I can go world-class salmon fishing, like, 15 minutes away from my house. I'm like, I love this place. I never want to move. So it's so difficult. This state has a huge hold on my heart, and I will probably always have something here. Ultimately, I don't know if I'll live here forever or for full time, but there never will be a time where I don't have something going on in Alaska.
How did you end up there? You were born there?
Well, no, I lived all over the place. I was born in Maryland. I grew up in northern Florida until I was 10. And then my mom moved us up to Wisconsin, where a majority of her family was. So I'm no stranger to the cold. Actually, there's a little secret. It's actually warmer in Alaska than it is in the Midwest. Ugh, the nasty Canada air, forget about it. Just don't tell anybody, guys. If you're watching this, please keep it a secret. We don't want a ton of people moving up here. I moved up here because the economy was poor in Wisconsin in 2013, and I was having a hard time like finding work that fit me. And my brother was like, "Hey, the economy is super strong in Alaska." He was stationed up here in the military, and he was deploying, and he's like, come up here, hang out with my wife while I'm gone. That'll make her feel better, and just, figure out maybe you like it. And I did. They left, a year and a half later, and I've been here for 10 years. So
Wow.
yeah, it was kind of a roll of the dice. I had my stuff in a storage unit in Wisconsin for like 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I didn't know,
Yeah.
I thought I was just going to go up there for like maybe a fun little year. Well, it's been 10 years now.
That's wild.
It
That's
is.
so cool, though. Oh my gosh. It's funny, like you mentioned how you had kind of gone back to bartending and stuff. That was actually my thing too. And then, obviously COVID definitely ruined that. I was actually doing my own business right before 2020, and I was so excited for it. And things just totally changed after. And it's one of those things now that like I'm just not interested in drinking like I was when I was in my early 20s. But it's cool because a lot of like the skills to bartend really cross over into the real estate world.
They do.
it's just, and it's so fun. And it's funny because I feel like I meet a lot of people that have that experience, and it's kind of like almost like that connection or understanding between people. Like, you know, that, oh, if you knew how to bartend and you were good at it and you could, like, you know, different things like communication with the people, because you're dealing with all different types of people. And
Amen.
that's the thing in real estate. It's like being able to have that skill it can be hard to come by. Like, and it's funny because I always would tell like my fiance, I'm like, with my kids, I want them to have that experience of being in the service industry, because there's just so much that comes with it. So I think that's cool that you were doing that.
I agree. I mean, honestly, the service industry is the unsung heroes. You know, I think they get a lot of flack, and there's a lot of whatever around like tipping and whatnot. And unless you've been in the sauce, like, you don't understand the preparation and the breakdown and the constant onslaught of personalities that you're trying to please. And being good at it and providing that experience is like, we rely on that as a society. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to go out and have a nice meal with our, you know, with our loved ones or our friends, you know, to be able to go and have a drink, that's important, to have that connection, you know, for a lot of people. And, you know, like, even as a bartender, like, when, you know, your loved one that you may not know is having a hard time, they come and sit down and have a drink by themselves. And who are they going to talk with? They're going to talk with the bartender. They're like there for them, and they're there for people who are lonely, or who are, maybe they want to celebrate, but they don't have anybody to celebrate with. It's just like, you're kind of everybody's best friend at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So in Alaska, I know you mentioned you have a couple dogs. It's just you and the dogs?
Just me and the dogs. Actually, I'm not sure if I can back up far enough, but here's one of my original pictures. I don't know if you can see her on I think maybe she was cut off on this picture, but it was right after I rescued Lily. And I took her out there and learned that she was more of a scajoring dog. She dragged me down that trail. It's like a 4-mile trail to a little bridge. And we got there in record time because she had zero leash skills.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then about a year later, well, maybe a year and a half or so, I decided she needed a companion. So I adopted another dog from a village in Alaska, and he's amazing as well. So I have a Lily and a J.A.X, and she's all white, except she has brown circles on her eyes, and he's pitch black. So they're my little yin yang.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, I love that.
There'll be a tattoo in the future, I'm sure of it.
Now for you, like, you know, we have like our financial aspects, our emotional and mental. Are there any things that you do for like your mental side of things to keep yourself sane with everything that you've got going on?
That's a great question. And for me, like, I am an extrovert, and if I'm not physically interacting with people, like, I just kind of lose all my energy, right? So that's why I keep my bartending job, honestly. Like, it is like something I look forward to, even though it's work, right? And it takes me away from working on my businesses. It's something I look forward to as a respite, to be able to just like stop and connect with people in a physical sense, versus like on the phone or through Zooms. Because that's what just like re-energizes me all the time. And being able to talk about my real estate business, which is really great. Also, I'm in a mentorship with Keston Glassblow, the Kes on Purpose, Live on Purpose group. And we have weekly meetings, you know, holding ourselves accountable and really just working on personal self-development, you know, reading resources, things along those lines. Because one thing that I can say I totally lack, and, you know, I'm still really working on, is focusing on one thing and just mastering it so that I can continue to build. So joining his group has been monumental for building that up for myself.
That's awesome. I love that. I didn't know you're a part of that group. I've heard of it, and Keston is awesome. The little bits that I've seen, I really resonate with the way he presents things and what he talks about. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I've still not really mastered the meditation piece. You know, I also prescribe to the miracle morning. Are you
Mm,
familiar?
yes.
Yeah. So, you know,
But
you have your
find this,
silence, affirmations, visualizations, exercise, and oh my gosh, I can't believe
I
I
think
can't think of
it's,
the thing.
I think it's reading and scribing.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've worked on my miracle mornings. I can often do like the reading, um, my scribing. I'm like, ugh, I need to just talk into a dictaphone because I'm like trying to write fast as my brain is going.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely working on that meditation piece. Like I know the majority of successful people that I talk to, they have that silent time with themselves. Um, and I got to figure out how to really narrow, you know, really nail down the silence piece. That was my dog, by the way. He doesn't like it when there's silence for me.
That's funny that you say that because I feel the same way. Like, even with my fiance, like, if he's trying to think something through, I'm like, I don't need it to look pretty. Just tell me what you're thinking because the silence is killing me. But now I'm like, I really need to learn how to just sit with myself and sit with my thoughts and just like, but it's a struggle. I feel the same way. Like, I'm like, this is deafening. Why are we not talking?
It is a skill indeed. It is a skill indeed. I mean, I got really good at taking like 8-minute naps, but I'm still not great at just being awake and letting my mind shut off for a second. So,
That's funny. So, are there any sort of resources that have been pivotal for you in your journey? Maybe like a certain book that really sticks out to you or podcast that you listen to?
yeah, you know, that's also a great question. One book that I'm reading right now, and I basically keep rereading every chapter. One thing Custon says is don't read 100 books, read a book 100 times.
Mhm.
And I'm reading, you know, Living with the Law, and it's really helping me understand that the way we think can be controlled to help us attract what we want,
Mm.
right? You know, I've definitely had a an environment where I grew up where we all really relied on humor and sarcasm as like coping mechanisms. And what
Mhm.
I found is like that was like a put off to people. And I didn't understand it because I find myself to be a pretty positive person. But a lot of people kind of gave me some feedback that they felt like I was negative. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how do I change this? You know, and I didn't realize that, like, I don't know if you watch stand-up comedy, but we often joke about things that are inconvenient to us or whatever because it's funny because we can all relate to it, right? Well, ultimately, you know, if you're using that too much, maybe it just puts out the wrong vibe, right? So I'm trying to work on basically reconditioning myself from the beginning of childhood and how I've made connections to attract a different level of connection, you
Mm.
know. When your family says stuff like, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have luck at all. You know, like changing that dynamic is so difficult. So
Oh
that
yeah.
book has really, you know, it keeps reinforcing that. It keeps reinforcing that process. And how when you run into obstacles, much like forces of nature, like water traveling down a mountain, the water doesn't pool in front of a tree and say, oh, dang, this is a problem. Let me wait until I can build up all my force and move the tree. It just goes around the tree. And then
Mm.
it continues on building momentum, growing stronger, moving fluidly around obstacles until it becomes, you know, the mighty ocean. So like that's one line that really stuck super hard with me. So I keep just rereading it and going back to it because every time I find something different and it helps reinforce how our energy is really the only thing that matters when it
Yeah.
comes to getting what you want out of life.
It's so crazy. And like you said, and everybody's at different places and we've all gone through different things. And like for myself, I feel so blessed to know what I know at the age that I am. Cause I
Mhm.
know like the older you are, the more rooted you are in those earlier days. And so like just the whole concept of relearning and just restructuring everything that you've been brought up to know and being like, actually, you can think this way and things will happen. And that's kind of what gets me excited to have these conversations with people because I feel like there's so many people out there that don't even take the time to just open their eyes to the fact that like they control their life and they're able to make their world look the way that they want. I feel like a lot of people kind of just take things as they are because they think there's no other option. And that's like my biggest, I just want to tell everybody, like, you can really do whatever it is you set your mind to. So that's really cool. What was the name of the book again? I'll have to look into it.
Living with the Law. I was like looking over for where the heck it is so I can, Working with the Law. So it's by Raymond Hollowell. Working with the Law and the 11 Truth Principles for Successful Living.
Awesome. I'm going to look into that.
Yeah, you should. It's a read that's so dense. It's like literally eating like a nutrient dense thing that, if you're out in the middle of the back country, it's that, it's not one of those breeze through reads, and it really shouldn't be, because it's supposed to stop and like force you to think about that. And I'm glad you said that too, to being blessed at the age you were. Cause girl, I'm dang near 40, that I'm not going to let that stop me. But I just have to say, like, I feel so excited for our younger generations. Like, often they are catching this slack, like, oh, they don't want to work and they don't want to do this and that. I'm like, you don't even understand what these kids are building. Like, they're amazing and they're smart and they're doing things and living lives that they want to live. It's not like just giving your life away to one employer, and giving them that loyalty. That's not the way that our world works anymore. So it's so great to see all these young people, like not even out of high school, doing these amazing things. So it's so fantastic. I couldn't be more grateful to have like moved my world into this world.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. Well, Kasandra, is there anywhere that people can follow you in your journey if they want to keep up with your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not really sure how to put it. Like, I guess I probably should have put something in my headline, but I am on Instagram as Cassandra_L_investor. I also have a Facebook page spelled the same way. So definitely hop on. I should probably put a YouTube together, huh, Jackie?
Yeah, get on it.
I'm gonna have to hit you up and be like, what do I do, girl? What do I do? Help me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. It's always nice talking with you. Like, I definitely can feel your energy, even just when we met in person. Like, you're doing the damn thing. And I love that. Like, you're enjoying what you're doing and it shows. And that's so awesome. I'm excited to see how you continue to grow.
Oh, same to you. I'm looking forward to seeing all your episodes.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.